Have you ever been blamed by someone for something you have no memory of doing? No matter how hard you try to explain, things move in a direction different from what you intended. How do people feel in those moments? In Japan, it's well known that once you're arrested, there's a 99.9% chance you'll be found guilty. This time, we'll talk about what happens after someone is arrested. It took 17.5 years for his innocence to be proven. This is the story of a certain case. This video is closely related to the previous one, so please watch the previous video before viewing this one. Now let me start with an overview. At a pachinko parlor in Ashikaga City, K Prefecture. At the time, a 4-year-old girl went missing, and the next day, the body of a young girl, believed to be her, was found murdered on the riverbank of the Watarase River. Male bodily fluids were found on the victim, and the police continued their investigation. As a result, about a year after the incident occurred, the person was arrested on suspicion of this case, but as mentioned at the beginning, this person was actually innocent. Who was the real culprit in this case? At the time of the incident, someone was practicing golf near the scene. There was a valuable eyewitness testimony from a man. He said he saw a man who looked like Lupin from the manga. Here are the details. The murder case of Mamichan Matsuda, also known as the Ashikaga case. Around 6 p.m. on May 12, 1990, Mamichan Matsuda visited a pachinko parlor with her father. The 4-year-old vanished from the store's parking lot while her father played pachinko. Sensing something was wrong, he promptly alerted the police, initiating the investigation. The next day, May 13 at 10:20 a.m., Mamichan was found lifeless on the riverbed of the Watarase River, which flows through Ashikaga City, Tochigi Prefecture. She was discovered almost naked, with her head buried in the thick grass growing by the riverbank. Her red skirt, shirt, sandals and other clothing were found nearby. Semen, believed to belong to the perpetrator, was detected on her clothes. The cause of death was determined to be strangulation. The police investigated the homicide as a sexually motivated crime. Flyers and news reports immediately called for information, and eyewitness testimonies began coming in. Mamichan was wearing a red skirt that would stand out even in the evening. As a result, it stayed in witnesses' memories and made her easily noticeable. One witness, an art teacher out shopping, particularly remembered her. There was also a sketch of the suspect drawn by a housewife who was there. The collected eyewitness testimonies included these. A suspicious man was seen near the scene walking with a girl in a red skirt. A middle-aged man around his 40s was seen walking with a young girl. A Lupin lookalike was spotted with a girl after Mamichan's discovery, according to eyewitnesses. Because these sightings happened near the scene and the direction they were walking matched the details of the case, they are considered highly credible. As for the suspect at this point, the day before the incident occurred, Mamichan went missing. A suspicious man was seen around the kindergarten next to the pachinko parlor, peering into the premises. He was around 160-165 cm tall, with a round face, warrior-style mustache, and wore knickerbockers-like pants. And it was confirmed that a man believed to be the same person visited the pachinko parlor the next day, which is the day Mamichan disappeared. The police initially investigated based on eyewitness accounts. They began investigating but mysteriously stopped after a few months. The reason remains unknown. In fact, the existence of the eyewitness testimonies I mentioned earlier, as well as the investigation based on them, had been concealed, and it was only in recent years that these facts came to light. Now then, how did the police proceed with the investigation? They used profiling. In criminal investigations, they analyze the crime's nature and characteristics from a behavioral science perspective to infer the perpetrator's traits, such as an unmarried man who likes children. The police continue their investigation using this information. However, it seems odd to call something so obvious a profile. After a year and mobilizing 180 investigators, Tani-san emerged as the sole suspect. At the time, he was 45 years old and worked as a kindergarten bus driver. He had no prior criminal records. But about a year and a half after the incident, on December 2nd, 1991, Mr. Tani was arrested by the police on suspicion of abduction for indecent purposes and murder. Evidence found on Mamichan's underwear led to the arrest. It was that the type A body fluid matched Mr. Tani's type A. When people hear type A, many get the impression that it's definite proof. That's what people think, but at the time it wasn't an A test, it was a type A test. This type A is tricky, and to skip the details, with the technology back then, even if it was a different person, there was a chance, about 1 or 2 in 1,000, that both the type A and the blood type could match. Mr. Tani, who was arrested, confessed to the crime during police questioning, and then the day arrived. At the first trial, he completely changed his attitude, claimed his innocence, and said that his confession had been forced and was false. From the start, aspects of Mr. Tani's arrest seemed questionable. According to Mr. Tani's confession, he put Mamichan, the victim, on his bicycle. The confession stated he put her on the back of his car and drove down the embankment, but there were no eyewitness accounts corroborating this. The route of the crime was not possible in terms of time, and the only thing that matched was blood type A. Actually, this blood type A test was a newly introduced method of analysis, and Mr. Tani's lawyer argued that the reliability of the results was low. They repeatedly requested a re-examination of the blood type, but all of those requests were rejected. July 17, 2000, the Supreme Court recognized the evidential value of the blood type A analysis, and Mr. Tani's life sentence was finalized. The person who questioned this decision was a journalist named Kiyoshi Shimizu. He frequently appeared in the media. He pointed out the contradictions in this case and the reliability of the blood type A analysis, and Mr. Tani consistently maintained his innocence. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, and then on December 19, 2008, since Mr. Tani was arrested. About 17 years had passed on this day. The Tokyo High Court decided to conduct a re-examination of blood type A. On April 20, 2009, the results of the re-examination were revealed. Mr. Tani's blood type A and the type of bodily fluid found on Joji's underwear did not match, which was the decisive factor for the arrest. This result greatly overturned the credibility of the blood type A evidence, making Mr. Tani's innocence highly likely. However, the prosecution did not immediately suspend the execution of the sentence after the re-examination of blood type A. Mr. Tani was released about a month later. Journalist Shimizu followed and supported Mr. Tani after his release. At the press conference, Mr. Tani tearfully demanded an apology from the prosecution and prefectural police. Mr. Tani's retrial was granted immediately, 17.5 years after his arrest, on March 26, 2010. The court considered the A analysis at that time as evidence. It was clear to everyone that Mr. Tani did not have the ability, his confession was false, and he was not the perpetrator. The court ruled this and declared him not guilty. What Mr. Tani spoke about was the interrogations, where the police forced false confessions and used violence that was close to abuse. That interrogation lasted as long as 15 hours. Yes, that's right, Tani. When Mr. Tani was acquitted, someone vocally criticized the prosecution for refusing to apologize despite the passage of time. Ms. Hitomi Matsuda, Mamichan's mother, became a victim. If you can't apologize, what will you do next? The prosecution gave just over a minute of apology regarding the arrest of the 5 people, including Mr. Tani, even though they were unjustly detained for as long as 17.5 years. Mr. Tani, a former detainee, was compensated 80 million yen. However, I must emphasize that it's not about the money. Mr. Tani's father passed away from shock soon after Mr. Tani was arrested, and his mother also died 2 years before Mr. Tani was released. Because of the wrongful arrest, both his family and his own life were torn apart. The prosecution settled the matter with a brief apology, making matters worse. They continue to assert the legitimacy of their investigation. There are reasons to say this. For example, they have not returned Mamichan's belongings to her family. They quickly ended the investigation based on credible eyewitness testimony and refused to conduct a re-examination of blood type A for a long period of time. They have not tried to pursue the real culprit. If they had responded appropriately in each of these cases, the outcome might have been different. The prosecution has announced that they will not investigate serious issues such as the low accuracy of blood type A testing. They don't want to admit their own mistakes, even though they've ruined people's lives. Is their dignity or pride really that important? And so we're back to square one. In this case, a significant amount of time has passed since the incident and the statute of limitations has expired. The victim's family argues that the statute of limitations should have been extended because the investigation was not conducted during Mr. Tani's unjust detention. Identifying the true culprit is crucial. The key evidence remains the eyewitness account from the man called Lupin Otsuyai. This case and Yukari Yokoyama's case, introduced in the previous video, led to the arrest of 5 people each. Because of this, it was suggested that it was the same perpetrator. Journalist Kiyoshi Shimizu's theory is becoming increasingly concrete. He pressed on. Who exactly is the real culprit? That person is still alive and living among us in everyday life, just like us. Next time, we'll cover the serial abduction and murder case in Northern Kanto, including this case and the Yukari Yokoyama case. We will delve into the series of incidents believed to be committed by the same perpetrator, as well as the real culprit. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Well then, see you in the next video.